Hey everyone, my name is Mohit and welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to talk about the type. So this is a video in the series of Virtualbox and we are going through understanding the concepts of virtualization. In the previous video I talked about what is virtualization, so if you haven't seen you can go and check the video. So let us understand what are the types of virtualization. We can classify types of virtualization based on different parameters. First, categorize virtualization based on what we are going to achieve out of it. So you can have application level virtualization. So application level virtualization is basically a concept where you are having a virtualized application, which means you have an application running somewhere remotely. This can be maybe a remote desktop. This can be some application which you are accessing on cloud. So this is called application virtualization. Next is your server virtualization. So for server virtualization, you need a piece of software called hypervisor, which can help run that operating system, or you can say multiple operating system on top of that same hardware. Next, we have network virtualization. So if we can segregate the physical network into multiple logical networks, this is termed as network virtualization, and this is used a lot into the advanced networks, that is software defined networks. Then the last is your storage virtualization. So storage virtualization is a concept where you have multiple storage, physical storage, and then you can use those multiple physical storage into various logical drives. So there are multiple technologies which facilitate storage virtualization, and this is very important in current industry to have some sort of virtualization on all these layers, so and all these spectrum of technologies, so that we can have efficient resource usage. So let's talk about the server virtualization and categorize it. So the server virtualization can be categorized into three broad categories. So first one is your binary translation. Second one is your OS assisted. This is also called para virtualization. And the third one is your hardware assisted. So as the name suggests, the first two are software assisted and the third one is your hardware assisted. The difference between the first and second is that the binary translation happens at the binary level, where your binary translator, which is kind of, you can think of a piece of code. So this piece of code translates the binary instructions into machine code. So it's very low level, it's very efficient, but it's very complex to implement, and it has a high overhead. So I'll just briefly write it down. So uses a binary translator and it converts your binary instructions. This is the instruction in form of 0 and 1 into machine code. Alright. It is efficient as it's working at very lower layer, but complex to write. Second is OS assisted or para virtualization. So in this case, the guest OS is modified. Guest OS is modified. That is the operating system which is actually virtualized. So in this case, the guest OS is modified. The problem is that it has poor compatibility because you are modifying your guest operating system. So it might impact some of the application working on top of it. So that's why it has a poor compatibility. Third is the best of it all because it's hardware assisted, right? And it has technologies like we have Intel VTX or AMD, which are the virtualization technology supported by the various chip manufacturers, and they have some set of privileged calls which are only available for the hypervisor. So this is a broad categorization for server virtualization. Let's understand what are the type of hypervisors. So if we talk about hypervisors, let me just draw a block diagram. So if we say this is your hardware, alright, now this is your hypervisor, and then you have your all the virtual machine. So this is VM1, VM2, and then this is VM3. This is called type 1 hypervisor, where your hypervisor is directly located above the hardware. And if we talk about the same thing, so we have hardware, we have your host operating system, we have hypervisor, and then we have your VM1, VM2, and VM3. This is called your type 2 hypervisor. So the only difference between type 1 and type 2 hypervisor is that type 2 hypervisor sits on top of a host operating system. Here in case it can be Windows, it can be Linux, or it can be anything. And one of the example of type 2 hypervisor is Virtualbox. So to install Virtualbox, you need some sort of operating system, underlying operating system, and that underlying operating system here is, in my case, is Linux. For you, it can be Linux, Mac, or Windows. So you have to select the software accordingly. So this is a very brief overview of types of virtualization. In case of any question, you can put in the comment box and I would be happy to reply. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching this video and I will see you in the next one.